At this time, I want to call our regular monthly board meeting to order. Brian Biggs is not with us tonight. I think he's somewhere in South Carolina. His son suffered a pretty serious football injury on Saturday, and at this time they're in surgery, so it's pretty bad on his legs. So please keep that family in your prayers tonight, if you will. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. At this time, I'd like for you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, our superintendent, Dr. Gandy, will share some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Board members, just want to share some things from the past month since our last meeting. On the 21st of September, had a chance to attend the Randolph County Partnership for Children annual breakfast at Pinewood Country Club, and I just want to thank Lisa Hayworth, our executive director for Randolph County Partnership for Children, for inviting me so we could learn more about what that wonderful organization is doing throughout our county. On October 5, I had a chance to attend the elected officials picnic at the historic Lux Cannery in Seagrove, and really appreciated that invitation and opportunity to visit with many elected officials throughout our county. 2 days later, on the 7th, I had a chance to participate in Randolph Community College President's Community Advisory Council meeting. It was held by Zoom. I want to say thank you to Dr. Robert Shackford, President of Community College, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to hear the great things going on at Randolph Community College. Also, on the 12th of October, and Mr. Cook mentioned Mr. Biggs, I was invited to the Archdale Trinity Economic Development Summit at Colonial Country Club. And I want to thank Mr. Biggs, who's one of the leaders of this event, for inviting me. There were a lot of topics discussed that night, including economic development projects throughout the school system and throughout the county, as well as the expansion of broadband access throughout our county. There was a panel of speakers that night: Mr. Darrell Fry, Chair of the County Commissioners; Mr. David Allen, Vice Chair of the County Commissioners; Mark Allred, Planning Director for the City of Trinity; Zeb Holden, City of Archdale Manager; and also Dr. Kenny Sharon, Randolph County Extension Director and Broadband Access and Education Coordinator. And all the topics were very important, but there's one that stood out, and it was the broadband discussion. And if ever this was important, the last 19 months when we've been on remote instruction, for different parts of the last 19 months, broadband access has been critical for our county. And we have several spots in our county that do not have good access. And so Dr. Sharon has been working very hard leading this initiative in our county. And he is encouraging everybody to complete the broadband survey. You can complete it by Googling North Carolina Broadband Survey, or if you do not have internet, you can call 919-750-0553 to complete the survey. This is important to our county because soon federal money will be released for broadband access, and we need good, strong data in our county so that when that money is released, we can get access to a lot of it to help increase the broadband access throughout our county, especially in some areas that do not have good access. On the 12th of October, also has some really good information and good news for our school system. I want to say a big thank you to Sheena Creech, Director of Digital Teaching and Learning, Scarlett Allman, and Trina Cox, who are both Digital Teaching and Learning Specialists for our school system. They had applied through the Emergency Connectivity Fund for some devices for our school system. And on that day, we learned that when the application was sent in several weeks before, we learned that our school system received 800 Chromebooks at no cost to our school system, and 650 hotspots with service at no cost to our school system. And we are presently waiting word on our second application to the Emergency Connectivity Fund for an additional 2,500 Chromebooks for our school system. So good news for the Randolph County school system. And lastly, I want to just say a big thank you to classroom teachers in 14 classrooms of our school system had a chance with the Leadership Reads program to read at Coleridge Elementary, Ms. Cleghorn, Ms. Dunn, and Ms. Purvis' third grade class. At Tabernacle Elementary School in the last month, I got to go to Ms. Hughes' kindergarten class, Ms. Purdue's first grade class, as well as second grade classes of Ms. Risher, Ms. Yates, and Ms. Perriman. John Lawrence, the other day, had a great opportunity there. Third grade, Ms. Knight, Ms. Carpice, Ms. Long, and Ms. Brown's class. Had a chance to read to those individuals. And finally, on Friday, visited Ms. Marvin's class and Ms. Prohaska's class at Level Cross Elementary School. And of all the things we get to do, or I get to do in this job, one of my favorite things is to go visit elementary classrooms and get to talk to the future of our school system and read to the children. Obviously, I'm not anywhere as skilled as the elementary teachers are, but I do want to say a big thank you to those teachers and ones whose classrooms I'll visit throughout the year. You may not know this, but with the Leadership Reads program, the leadership team of the school system visits classrooms throughout the school system all year in the elementary level and reads to our elementary children. So I think that's important to model the importance of reading, and I think it's also important for the elementary students to see us in their classrooms. So, Mr. Chair, this concludes my comments.
Thanks, Dr. Gaines. When you first started reading, you carry your own book around, and they changed it up on you at one school. You was all ready to have his book, had everything planned, and boom, they changed books on it. But you take your own book down, or you let the, you just wing it down.
I do
right?
what they tell me.
That's exactly right. I'll never forget that. That was fun. I'd like to ask for need a motion to approve our minutes from the September 2021 board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, we'll move to the recognitions. Dr. Gainey, I think you're going, Ms. Farlow, you're going to present?
I am.
Okay, board members, tonight I want to recognize a very special individual in our school system. In the fall of every year, we recognize the principal of the year in our school system, and tonight I would like to invite Jamie Armfield up. She is the principal of Seagrove Elementary School, and I want to share some information about Jamie. Jamie, if you come forward. Ms. Farlow will give you a certificate from the school system, and if you will stand with Ms. Farlow, I'm sure Ms. Fowler will get a picture of you or two. I just want to share some things with individuals that are here tonight about Ms. Armfield. Ms. Armfield has been the principal at Seagrove Elementary School. Very proud of that school, very proud of her work. She is in the 7th year of her experience, her time as a principal of the school. She has spent all 20 years of her career in the Randolph County school system. She started as a teacher at Seagrove Elementary School, spent 7 years there, and also was the Exceptional Children's Department program specialist for 2 years, and then wound up being an assistant principal for about 4 years at Farmer Elementary School and Southmont Elementary School. I've had the great fortune, board members, of watching Jamie through all of her principal days at Seagrove Elementary School, because she did move to that role during my time here. I'm very proud of Jamie. I've had a chance to see Jamie not only as the principal of Seagrove, but I've seen her as a community member and a very big supporter of our school system as a parent as well as a principal. And I just want to say congratulations, Jamie, and thank you for all the great work you do for our school system every day. This is an award and honor well deserved. Thank you. Okay, board members, the next thing I'd like to present tonight is an information item. Oh, we're going to go to public comment first. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Cook.
You're fine.
Public comment first.
Okay. At this time, I also would like to, I didn't miss you, I saved you. We're lucky and fortunate tonight, I think, to have an old friend of mine. Gosh, I remember when he and I both were in our 20s, and we were running, our hair was dark, and both of us white-headed, and he's using a cane tonight. I haven't quite got there yet, but hopefully I won't for a while, but he's had hip replacement. But he's one of our representatives out of Raleigh. He's our local representative from the House, and he's kind enough to come tonight, and I'm sure we all know he's here to listen and take back some of our opinions and stuff like that with him. And I really appreciate you coming out as Representative Abilene McNeil. Would you please stand? Thank you for coming. At this time, we're going to move on to public comments, and what I would like to do tonight, I want to stress to you guys that I don't want another board meeting like we had last time. I want us to, you're welcome to speak your 3 minutes, and I appreciate if everyone would be respectful. I don't want to have anybody removed, but if it gets like it did last time, I won't have any other choice. So let's be respectful to your neighbors, let's be respectful to this board, this superintendent, and we'll be glad to listen to everything you have to say. So first up is Jonathan Madison. You have 3 minutes.
Hello to the board and Mr. Gainey. So as a parent of 5 children who are currently in the school, and a couple more coming up, and Lord willing, many more, and at least 60 more, I stopped counting, cousins, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, who are currently in the Randolph County school system. Just wanted to express my disappointment in 4 members of this board. You're doing your best to drive the conservatives out of this school system, and eventually we'll probably be there, all homeschooling. Some of you talked really big, and then as soon as you had the Cooper took away your cover, you became him as soon as he gave you the power. I want to express my hope that the ones of you who flip-flop, that you'll be primaried out. I'll work to that end. I was very ashamed to watch the emergency meeting that Sunday after I found out about it on the Lord's Day. I think maybe it should be called the Randolph County Board of Sports. It was just shocking to hear the amount of concern for these sports, and very little for education. And everything was set up to keep sports going. Our Lieutenant Governor, he's talked about this problem in America. What's wrong with us? We have this thing with sports. We should be ashamed of ourselves. We're all concerned about watching grown men play with balls, and paraphrasing his words, and yet we teach our children. That's the most important thing. Education wasn't even hardly mentioned. It was all about sports, and we see that sports got the big carve out. So all of a sudden, I wrestled, my brothers wrestled, we did fairly well. You're telling me that doesn't spread COVID? But going and sitting in a classroom is somehow dangerous, and wrestling is not. It's rather bizarre. The board members who flip-flop, you need to look at yourself, realize you are now part of the problem. On a very local level, you have become our Washington liberals. Go along to get along. So perhaps now you have some respect for the John McCains and the Boehners and the like. You could have stood. You had the most conservative county in the state behind you, voted for you. It would have been easy to stand. Yet, for some reason, you folded, you caved. You're among your friends and families. People would have had your back literally to the bloody end, and you caved. It really gave me a lot more respect for our national politicians who don't change the Ted Cruz's, even the Donald Trump. But I'm sorry about that. But pretty much that's all I have to say is I don't quite understand it. I was just telling a friend the Friday before that it would never happen in Randolph County, maybe anywhere else, but not Randolph County, and here we are. Thank you.
Thank you. right?
So I think that some of you guys really need to consider the values that you stand for. Because as far as I'm concerned, the issues that we're here to talk about is to do with safety versus freedom, right? Because in order to become more safe, you have to sacrifice personal freedom, right? So which is more important to you guys? Safety or freedom? So, you know, I think you guys really need to think about that, because the way I see it, all this mask mandate stuff, all the all the quarantine stuff, that's sacrificing the personal freedom of everybody in the school system for the sake of their safety, right? And that safety should be up to them, right? That's the point of personal freedom. They can decide for themselves how safe they want to be. So, will you stand and fight for freedom, or will you bow down and sacrifice your freedom for safety and the freedom of others for safety? I want you guys to really think about that.
Chris Wilford.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent. You know, Lucas just made a good point. You're sacrificing freedom for safety. You know, a wise man once said, if you sacrifice one for the other, you'll have neither. That's where we're at right now. I served 18 years in the Army. I sacrificed my life, offered my life for this country. Many more have done that before me, and are continuing to do it now, just for elected officials to trump over those freedoms that those men and women offered their lives to secure. That in itself should make you feel ashamed if you're part of the problem. Now, I spoke with you last time and I told you, we stand behind you if you make the right decisions. Not the decisions we want, but the decisions that are constitutionally guaranteed to us by our forefathers and by God Himself. We will stand behind you, whether you have folded already or not. I ask you to look at the error in your ways and know that Randolph County is behind you. And it ain't just Randolph County. We've got a lot of people that's behind you. When the Board of Health comes in, or our fake governor and Mandy Cohen come in and start threatening you with money, stand upright. Lift your head up, pull your shoulders back, and know that we stand behind you. We'll take that fight on. Right there beside you, we'll lead the charge with you. Do not sacrifice our children and our futures over stupid politics. And if your goal right now is not to make our children better, these young children out here, these two boys back here on the back row, they ain't mine, but I'll fight for them just as if they were. I can promise you that. You guys need to secure our children's futures. That's what you've been elected to do. That includes good, fruitful education. Quit the mask mandates. We all know they don't work. If you didn't hear me last time, I'll repeat it. 14 microns is the average size of the novel coronavirus. 5 microns is what that paper mask you're wearing, Dr. Gain. That's what it stops. The N95 might stop, 7 or 8, depending on the manufacturer. They do not work, they're useless. You're hurting our children because of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I think it's Let's see. Tim or Jim? Is it Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, come on up.
I have one tonight.
Okay.
Y'all from Randolph County, for the most part. Randolph County, we used to be proud to live in Randolph County. Best county in the world. Everything you want, Randolph County got it. 10, 11 years ago, I graduated. And it's amazing how much schools changed. The liberal crap that's gotten into our schools about feelings and, well, you don't want to offend nobody. What happened to truth? Teach against truth. You ask any kid nowadays, is what's true for you true for everybody else? And half of them's going to tell you, no, the truth is truth. My kids go to Wari, and I hate it. It is the worst school I've ever been to. The principal, don't know what he's doing. He's just up there hanging out. My kid got bullied like the first week, kid throwing food all over him. Oh, we'll look into it. You think I've heard anything out of it? I ain't heard a word. So he's gonna show me what he stands for. Kids going in the bathroom, doing inappropriate things, while my son's using the bathroom in the stall beside of him. And this stuff's just being allowed to happen in schools. Drugs creeping into school. Yeah, there's always been drugs in school, and I understand that. But it's gotten significantly worse. Significantly. And that's y'all's job. That is y'all's job to stop this stuff from getting to school, to mold my children's mind, to have independent thoughts, teach them moral values, not this feelings crap that the left's trying to push on our kids. You know, I don't know which one of y'all are Republicans, which one of y'all are Democrats. I don't really care. When it comes down to it, there are certain morals that every human being needs to learn. And that's part of y'all's job. I can't teach my kids while they're at school moral values. I can teach them when they're at home, but then they go to school and they get this other crap shoved in their head. Because, I'm not saying all teachers are like this, but there are teachers in there with their own personal agendas, and they're going to push it on them kids. And that's y'all's job to stop that. That's y'all's job to make sure that them kids are in there learning what they need to learn to succeed in life, instead of, oh, well, I don't feel like it, or, well, my buddy over here, he says that that's wrong, even though it's right. You know, that's y'all's job while they're at school, to make sure that they're learning these things. Because I can't teach them while they're in there. I can teach them when they're at home. But, I mean, that's all I got to say. All right, good night.
Tim, what's your last name again?
Bolins? Bolins?
Bullins?
P-U-L-L-I-N-S.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you are a Ridge, right?
Yeah.
You are Ridge, okay. Thank you. Okay, Ms. West, Dawn West. Dawn, you were one of the few people that actually emailed me after the last meeting. And I appreciate that. You were very, very kind, and you made a lot of, I appreciate the email. I mean, you know, even though we didn't agree on that night, but I do appreciate, and a couple of things you said did stick. But thank you.
Thank you. Well, we are all here for, the same reason. We need to come together and work together. We're here for our children, and I know you guys are here to protect our children too. That's our main goal. But I wanted to start by saying that I am sorry that you all were offended by the last meeting. But you do have to understand that, we're all here. Y'all, okay. You're regular people just like us with family that you love and protect. And that's why we're here. I did pull up a study on some math recently. Out of 25,000 school-aged students, 68% had distinct health issues. 17,854 had health complaints. 53% had headaches. 50% had difficulty concentrating. 37% had fatigue. 29% shortness of breath. 26% dizziness, respiration problems, and a third had sleep issues and new fears, which you may have experienced yourselves because we're wearing, the mask a lot.
But the study shows they are worse for our children than COVID because the kids are, I mean, I understand the adults are having the severe issues with COVID, but the children are not as much, just some runny nose fever, and then they're over it just like a normal virus. But as I said before, germs are something we all will be exposed to. It's just how you build your immune system. But I also want to speak on the government funding. As we all know, the federal government and our governor are freely giving billions of dollars to our schools, which are much needed, I agree, but not at the cost of forcing their agenda. This is what they are bribing and enforcing all of you with, and it's not worth it. The Word of God says in 1 Timothy 6:10, "For the love of money is the root of all evil, which some have coveted after. They have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." So it just shows you that, if money is the reason for all this, it's not worth it. In Mark 8:36, Jesus said, "What does a man profit to gain the world and lose their soul?" So what I'm saying here is, so what if we lose the money? God has always provided, and He always will. But if we choose to make a decision based off money and bribery, God will not prosper it, and we will have to live with our choice, knowing that we've done the wrong thing. And this is not just, you can't justify why if we know in our hearts it's wrong. So that comes with a bigger price tag than any amount of money. But I just hope that, the agenda, I hate politics, I hate that it's involved in schools. But, I just pray over our children, and I pray that we make the right decision for them right now. And with the vaccine, I just pray that that's not in y'all's future agenda, because then the children will leave the schools because the parents will not do it. So I hope and pray that that's not in your future agenda, which we have seen some of that when I've researched it. And when it comes to what the plans are for the total U.S. and their school systems. So I just hope in North Carolina it's not. But thank you all for listening to me, and enjoy the meeting.
Thank you. Well, listen on.
Good evening, Dr. Ganey and board members. I have two questions for you guys. I've done my research and I speak facts and only the truth. I have here a letter from the state superintendent that explains the funding for North Carolina schools. This had me curious, especially with this sudden change for the board members to change face coverings universal countywide, just a week after school started. So after following report after report and the money, I get to the Strong Schools North Carolina Public Health Toolkit, K through 12 from the CDC, last updated on 10/5/21. They have set all guidelines for public schools to follow about universal masking, social distancing, and soon to be vaccine mandates. My first question to you is, did you accept the federal, state, and private funding and grants for COVID? Were you aware of the rules and guidelines that were set into place about the masking mandate and the possibility of vaccine mandates? And second, I'm aware that the school system has received $51,453,547 in COVID funding. My question is, where's the money and what do you plan to do with it? You have teachers and staff who are working, who are underpaid, unappreciated, and are short-staffed. You have 133 job openings on your website as of today. 14 are EC, 10 are speech pathologists, 43 bus drivers. And instead of giving the teachers and staff a raise, you increase Dr. Gaines' salary by 4%, who is already receiving right at $200,000 a year. I just don't understand your way of thinking, and do you care to explain?
I'll answer that. Actually, we'll answer some of your questions later tonight.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you looked at the meeting agenda, but
We don't decide about employee raises.
no.
That comes from the
That comes from the state.
state budget, which we
What
do
about
not have.
bonuses? Every other county in our surrounding
area.
Look at the agenda.
Look at the agenda and hang on.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on something for 7 weeks.
7 weeks, we've been working on something. You can't make it happen overnight,
You have to.
and this has been a project, an ongoing project.
Yes.
And, you know, quite frankly, probably if our board meeting had been 2 weeks ago, Davidson County might have been saying, wow, they've been having their meeting. Why don't we do what Randolph's doing, so hang on.
And as far as the superintendent's raise, we are contractually obliged to have a review on him every September.
My question also, how many years can he actually run as superintendent?
Don't run.
Or be elected, be chosen by you guys to continue to be
As long
superintendent?
as we renew his contract.
So our school board members are our issue. Thank you.
No, not really. You pushed it. Rhonda Robbins.
Who?
Rhonda Robbins. Welcome back, Ms. Robbins.
That'd be best.
Okay, when I started coming to these meetings, I thought, well, they just want facts, so we'll give them facts. And we have, but you know the facts don't seem to matter. This board, but we are going to keep bringing them. So today I heard online a doctor and a marketing director from North Carolina in North Carolina discussing how to inflate the COVID-19 numbers. They said, let's be more forceful, more scary to the public, really blunt. We need to include post-COVID numbers still in the hospitals for a variety of reasons. Then the guy said, those are listed as recovered. And she said, yes, those, they drop off the COVID list, so we need to include them so we can inflate the numbers. And he said, we need to talk about that offline. Are we just following orders to be following orders? And whose orders? Are they right orders, just orders? Are they good for our children orders? Do they line the pocket of people and politician orders? What are we doing with our children when they have to be offered up as guinea pigs? You should look up North Carolina Citizens for Constitutional Rights and see what it says. They did post an article that said COVID-19 cases decreased in a mask optional North Carolina school system. But that is when the numbers are being reported correctly. We know that they're not always reported correctly here. They did, and we want to know how deadly is COVID. It has a 99% recovery rate. 99% recovery rate. It's not deadly. These viruses, on the other hand, the vaccines are. What is our number one form of nutrition? Breath. We have to breathe. If we don't have proper oxygen, you don't have cognitive function and you can't think clearly. Is that correct? To deprive a child's brain from oxygen is not only dangerous, it is criminal. Oxygen deficiency inhibits the development of the brain, and the damage that has taken place cannot be reversed. Oxygen level drops quickly below OSHA safe limits when wearing a mask. Carbon dioxide levels rise quickly above OSHA safe limits when wearing a mask. This board said no CRT and no vaccine mandates is what I heard. Well, it's 3 to 4. And if this board cannot agree on mask mandates, you really think you're going to agree on vaccine mandates and CRT mandates? Bills are being introduced at the time in behalf of our children, like the Senate bill Free the Smiles Act. Imagine that there's actual human beings in our population that wants our children to be free with the smiles, but then there are others who want to destroy their smiles along with their minds. I'm not sure where you stand with the Lord, but He is watching. So if I were you, I would choose wisely today. When is enough, Gary? And I want to take this time to pray for Austin Biggs, which is Brian Biggs' son. Please remember him in your prayers. We all want the best for our children, and the best is for them to be able to breathe freely and have cognitive function.
Okay, Amanda Dodge. Did I say that right, Dodge? Cool.
Good evening.
Last week or last month, I spoke on the fact that HVAC systems were not upgraded in schools and masking was still going on in gyms with no HVAC systems. And it's stressful. I get it. And your toolkit on a state level didn't emphasize children's safety. But when you're given millions of dollars, maybe you could have applied for one grant from Tran. One, just one. Took 3 seconds to Google, could pull it right up off the CDC website. But that's not my main issue. My main issue is on October 1st, my senior son was quarantined as a possible exposure from Providence Grove. No symptoms, wearing a mask. Why are we still quarantining kids? Why are they still being identified as exposures? But there was a letter sent out saying that that was going to stop. It's posted to the website. I mean, for the sake of time and respect, I won't pull it up and read it. I talked to the principal, Ms. Thompson, and I explained to her, no ma'am, he should not be identified as an exposure. This is not the policy of the state or the county, but it's still happening. I have 15 messages on my phone from COVID calls and exposures, and it's still happening. There cannot be like some clarity from the board to the principals or from the principals to the parents. I'm not understanding what exactly you're doing for safety. Because masks and shots, they're free. So why? Why would you need any money to reopen schools? It's not even worth trying to explain anymore. I try to offer help. I try to make suggestions. Not a single outdoor area was built for kids to eat lunch. No HVAC systems upgraded. Barely any water fountains upgraded. Schools have 11 nurses to share between the 32 schools. Tell me how safe that is in a pandemic. I'm just curious. There was a little girl in Virginia who died from getting COVID, walking COVID sick kids to home or to the office. That's the same thing that my first graders having to do. Thankfully, we've recovered from COVID. I'm not worried about my child catching COVID. But your board won't recognize natural immunity. I'm 80 days out from having Delta. 80 days. Not worried.
Lori Ashley. Okay.
Good afternoon. I came tonight to address issues concerning books in our schools. As you know, our Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robertson, which has a backbone, recently came under fire for standing up on these issues in recent days. I would like to say he spoke truth. Yes. I have a first-hand example of it. One of my grandchildren that attends Randleman Elementary School in the 7th grade recently attended a book fair and purchased a book which he thought was a good choice. Upon reading it, he discovered it was promoting homosexuality. He took the book to his mom and his daddy and told them about the problem. And he said he was returning the book, which he did. Upon returning the book, the librarian asked why he was returning it. He told him the same thing he told his parents. It was promoting homosexuality. She replied, I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to read that either. Point is, why are books like these being allowed to be sold at our book fairs in our schools and even on our shelves in the libraries? If you think that's okay, we have a problem. Amen. I don't think that kind of filth should be sold, accepted, or accommodated in our school systems. Amen. My other issue is how our history is being torn down in the teaching realm. I know that an assignment at one of our local middle schools was given. The topic of the paper was an opinion paper, was the Declaration of Independence. The options, the opinions that were addressed, that were supposed to be addressed is the Declaration of Independence unconstitutional? Should the men that signed this petition been tried for treason? Pure garbage. What place does that have in our history classrooms in our school? We're Americans. Men fought for that right and freedom based on the Bible, and we should not be torn down or even be questioned. This kind of teaching opens up the mindset that was done for the benefit of freedoms in our nation is degrading. The history of the United States was birthed on the very principles that we are tearing down and all apart. It cost a lot of blood and lives to have what we take for granted so freely. I, for one, will not support any teaching on history that teaches otherwise. I have 5 grandchildren, 2 in a public school system and 3 are being homeschooled. My daughter pulled hers out of school 2 years ago and is homeschooling. The thing that sealed her decision was when my oldest daughter came home and she went to Gilroy Charter. Asked was George Washington gay? They had been shown a film in 5th grade classroom. In the film, it was made reference that he was gay. The film was stopped, but when the children asked the question, nobody replied, leaving an open answer to leave those children thinking that that was okay. That's unacceptable. The Pilgrims came here because they wanted freedoms from the King of England to be able to teach our children principles based on the Bible. We have thrown that out. We have become a depraved society and our children are suffering from it. What kind of generation are we raising as we teach our children the kind of history that tears our nations down?
Miss Ashley, I would appreciate if you would, you can answer it now if you like. Which middle school? What, the
Which
history,
middle school?
please?
Randall Elementary was the one middle school.
Okay.
Southwest Middle is the other middle school.
That's the history, okay.
That's the declaration.
That's the Declaration of Independence, right?
Southwest Middle School.
Southwest Middle School was the opinion paper. And,
Random Elementary.
okay.
And Random Elementary was the book fair.
Yeah, and UR Charter was the top.
So we
that-
can't control your charter, but they're separate, they're not Randolph County, part of our school system. But, we will assure you follow up, and, when some of you guys are, like you earlier, I can assure you Dr. Danny Bullins, he's making notes, and we follow up, he'll follow up on these things, okay? Some of this stuff, if you don't tell us, we don't know it. And, that doesn't mean we're proud of it, we just don't know it. And that would take, I'm with you, that's wrong. But anyway, thank you for sharing. Mr. Steele, Edward Steele.
I have 2 that came in late. They didn't get to write on the card. Can they speak? Can you allow them?
I think we're finished, I can't do that this time, but you're welcome to speak if you'd like to.
Can I have you guys this? Mr. Gainey, Chairman, distinguished board, thank you again for the opportunity. I am praying for Austin and hope everything goes well there. I just want to make and confirm that you guys received a letter from Superintendent Law Offices. And I would love for you to review it. Have you guys seen that before now?
No.
Dr. Gainey has? So Dr. Gainey received it and didn't send it to the board. Okay, today I would like to share a word with you. It's not my words.
Oh, hold on a second.
Yeah, you want to pause the time?
Excuse me?
If you want to pause the
I'll
time?
give you the time.
Mr. Steele, the attorney shared that with me.
Okay,
The attorney is the board's
Okay.
attorney. Thank
so
you.
I'll
I
just
did
share a
not
word.
receive it on behalf of Randolph County Board. I received it because other boards have received the same letter.
Okay. So I'd like to share a word with you tonight, and the word's not mine, it's the word of Jesus. It comes from Matthew 23, 27, 28. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead men's bone and uncleanness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you're full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. It seems to me that Jesus had a problem with hypocrites, and it's easy to understand why, because he says that worship God, and to worship God in John 4:24, that you have to worship Him in spirit and truth, which we seem to have a problem with truth anymore. Dr. Gainey, do you believe that COVID-19 is deadly? Hopefully you do, because that's your actions. On the night of the football game at Southwest High School, Renton and Asheboro, you used your urinal right beside my son. That puts you within that 6 foot of that arbitrary 6 foot. If you believe that's deadly and you got beside my son, surely you were wearing a mask. Absolutely not. You were not wearing a mask. But at the county school board at the county commissioner meeting October 4th, surely you were wearing a mask there if you're mandating it on our kids. But the answer there is no. And surely visit Level Cross on Friday to read to the kindergartners while you were on campus, you wore your mask properly the whole time. And the answer to that is no as well. Tracy Bull, September 18th, you're a nonprofit. You were a youth sportsman at a wildlife camp while the Delta variant was running ravage. Did you mandate masks during this event? The answer is no. Did you wear a mask during this event? The answer is no. On Wednesday, 13th, and like this morning, the Farmer Fire Department, where you serve as chief, ran an accident call. Did you wear a mask at these events? The answer is no to that. This past weekend, you had a shooting practice for Hunter Safety Team where you serve as head coach, serving some of the same kids you do on this board. Did you mandate masks this weekend? The answer is no. You made them optional. Wow. While we're dabbling in truth here, I want to share this truth. You are harming our kids through these policies. You are harming our kids. You're causing them to fear. My Bible tells me that God gave me a spirit not of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. So if you're giving these kids fear, it's a sin. So here it is.
I give you the extra time.
Whoever receives my child receives me, but whoever causes one of these
Time's up,
sins,
sir.
it would be better for him to have a millstone tied to his neck and him be buried into the depths of the sea. You don't like truth, that's what it is.
Okay. That concludes public comments. Thank you guys for sharing it tonight. At this time, I guess I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Okay, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion. Okay, up front first will be Dr. Gainey to share some information items.
Okay, board members, tonight I bring to you an information item. It's a gift to Northeastern Randolph Middle School. On September 24th, I received an email from Anthony Gross, principal of Northeastern Randolph Middle School. The gift was some Piedmont mattress equipment in the amount of $100. This gift was designated to be used for the school's media center, and I accepted this gift on September 27th per board policy 8220. Since the gift was $5,000 or less, I accepted this gift on that day, and I'm bringing it to you tonight as an information item. So this is a gift. I want to say thank you to Piedmont Mattress Equipment for the gift to Northeastern Randolph Middle School.
Thank you, Dr. Gaines. This time we'll move on to finance and budget with Todd Lowe.
Good evening, board members. I'd like to share with you this month's contracts that exceed $50,000, and this is per board policy 6420. So we have 8 of those this month. The first 2 are math intervention kits. The Math Learning Center, $82,604.54. Zander Blozer Incorporated, $61,594.64. And then Benchmark Education, kindergarten, first grade guided reading books, $55,613.25. The next 2 are vehicle purchases, Penske truck sales, refrigerated delivery truck, $68,250. And hold your laughter on this next one, Crook Motor Company, refrigerated delivery truck, $69,750. Blazer Works Psychological Services, $72,075. Preferred Services LLC Custodial Services, $72,000. And Job Hook Landscapes for Lawn Services, $68,750. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Thanks, Todd.
What kind of services are offered in psychological services?
It would be
Benchmark.
testing services
There is some.
and assessment services,
Okay.
contract psychologists.
Okay.
Thank you, Todd.
I'm still up.
Okay. I realize that.
All right, so we'll move into the first quarter budget, finance and budget update. So we'll be looking at July, August, and September to start the school year. This update is going to be a little different due to not having a 21-22 state budget yet. So what we'll do is we'll look at expenses and revenues. And instead of comparing that to actual budget amounts, we'll compare back to last year's expenses and revenues as of the first quarter. So I want to start by looking at the 2020-21 summer school program and give you a little update there. Then, like I said, we'll look at expenses and revenues for all the funds, state, current expense, federal, capital outlay, school nutrition, and AT tax. We'll talk about COVID-19 funding, charter school enrollment, we always touch on that, our cash balances, and then any areas to watch. All right, so for the summer school, the 2020-21 summer school program, we had 24 instructional days, 3 planning days, so it ran for a total of 27 days. It included 18 sites, broken down by elementary, 8 elementary, 2 middle, 8 high school. I included URA Ridge in the high school count there. 1,642 students attended, broken down between elementary, middle, and high, as you see the numbers there. 316 employees either worked the entire summer school program or part of the program. And the funding came from basically 3 sources. Summer reading camp funds, which is PRC 016, ESSER 1 funding, PRC 163, and school nutrition funding is PRC 035.
Board members, I wanted to point out, go back to that previous screen, Sheena. As I mentioned, yes, the school system got relief money. We do get summer reading camp money every year. And the school nutrition money, that was not extra money that came for summer school. We received the relief money, and then we had to pull out of our relief money what we needed to run a summer school that was required of us. So that summer school was imposed upon the school systems in North Carolina. I do believe it will continue in future summers, but in essence, there was not money set aside specifically for summer school. We had to go in and make that part of our plans for the use of our relief money.
All right, Sheena. So the expenditures were broken down. July, of course, the summer school was split between 2 fiscal years, June and July. July salaries and benefits total $608,131. The July excuse me, that was June. The July was 555, 991. I think there was one less instructional day in July than in June, so there's the difference there. There were legislative bonuses attached to summer school. Those totaled $73,794. Instructional resources, $183,668. And then we spent $72,153 on food. So total expense was almost $1.5 million for the summer school program. And if you divide that by the number of kids, per pupil expenditure of about $910. Okay, so we'll jump into, we'll look at the state budget first and just a quick glance at expenses and revenues. So in the first quarter, July, August, September, we spent $21.7 million out of state funding. Now, these subcategories overlap each other, so all of that, of course, does not total 21 million, they overlap. But I just wanted to show you that as with most of our funding sources, salaries and benefits are the biggest piece. 20.5 million of that 21.7 million for salaries and benefits. Transportation, $942,892. Exceptional children, $2.1 million in the first quarter from state funds. And CTE programs, $1.1 million from state funds. So if you compare, once again, since we don't have a budget in place, if we compare first quarter expenses this year to last year's first quarter, basically a couple $100,000 more, which does make a little bit more sense. Does make sense since we're fully operational now versus the first quarter of last year. All right, the current expense budget, and so this would be funds 2 and 8. First quarter expenses, $4.6 million. Salaries and benefits make up almost $2 million of that. Energy made up $791,000 of that. On the revenue side, some good news here. First quarter revenues, $5.8 million. County appropriations, of course, is the bulk of that at $5.3 million. Fines and forfeitures for the first 3 months are at $283,697. So if we compare expenses and revenues to last year's first quarter, we've spent, once again, a few $100,000 more in expense, which would make sense since we're in school 5 days a week. Revenues are up a little bit too, which is good, 5.8 compared to 5.6 last year.
Todd, our revenues do include the extra money we got from the county commissioners.
Yes.
For our board members, you recall, everybody's local supplement moved forward by another 0.25%, and our classified employees at central office and our classified school level got double 25%. And we worked on our directors and supervisors, if you recall that from our proposal back last spring. So the county commissioners did approve all of our local requests last year, which completed the 1% local supplement increase we started on several years ago. So that's in there too, Todd.
Yes.
So everybody this summer has already experienced some local increase in salary, and now we're waiting on the state budget as well, correct?
Well, the supplements hadn't been paid out
Oh, yeah,
yet.
but they've got it in their salary.
Yes.
And then what I see in the state budget, and I know Mr. McNeil's back there, I'm not asking you to comment, Mr. McNeil, put you on the spot, but I saw things on both sides of the legislature with raises, and it looks like there may be more from the state there as well. Which is not reflected in what Todd's talking about right here.
Right. So that $200,000 difference, what was from the county commissioners, what was the amount there?
I don't have the difference in the county commissioner rate in front of me right now.
Okay.
I do know that part of that difference is the fines and forfeitures are up a little bit compared to the first quarter last year. We talked about that before with the pandemic, how fines and forfeitures dropped off because of postponing court hearings and things like that.
There was a lot of things going on in the court system, talking about Will Hoyt, that impacted some of our fines and forfeitures because of COVID. But hopefully that'll rebound. But the other piece is, I can't remember the exact dollar figure, but everything we asked for from the commissioners, and from the continuation costs because of the insurance costs and things for local employees, locally paid employees, and the salary increase request we had, all of that was approved by the commissioners.
So that $200,000 just a little bit.
It may be
It's
fines and
both.
forfeitures.
And I can give you the breakdown.
That's
When I
fine.
sit back down, I can give you the breakdown.
That's fine.
Okay, federal budget. So here's where we'll see a pretty big difference. First quarter expenses, almost $3.5 million. Of that, 2.3 million was salary and benefits. ESSER, CARES, and GEAR expenses, all COVID related, made up 2 million of that 3.4. Exceptional children programs in the federal budget, 822,000, and then CTE has a small federal program, 41,000 was spent in the first quarter. So if you compare first quarter expenses to last year, there's a big difference there, basically about twice. 1.7 or 1.8 last year compared to about 3.5 this year, and that's going to be due to your COVID-related spending. All right, capital outlay. These numbers do not include the Trinity Middle School project. I want to kind of, compare apples to apples and kind of keep that out of it right now. First quarter expenses, $1.2 million. Some of the areas, roofing repairs, contract painting, HVAC and plumbing, flooring, you see the amounts there. First quarter revenues, $540,790. So if you compare expenses and revenues to last year at this time, we're basically doing the same thing, right on target. 1.26 million last year, 1.23 million this year, and then revenues are right in line, 541,195. Majority of those revenues are the county commissioner appropriations in the capital outlay budget. And school nutrition. First quarter expenses, 1.168 million. Salaries and benefits, 651,000, or about 56% of that number. Food, total 326,000 for the quarter. And then the food processing supplies, kind of everything else that goes into it, 57,925. So first quarter revenues came in at 1.4 million. Compared these numbers to last year. Expenses are down a little bit from 1.3 to 1.1. And revenues are up from 1 million to 1.4. So once again, with kids in school 5 days a week, more kids on campus, your supplemental sales are up. Or I should say, maybe back to normal. Right. Yeah. All right, AT tax. First quarter expenses, $224,570. Salaries and benefits accounted for $172,000 of that. Software and supplies, about $30,000, and then technology and equipment, $18,000. First quarter revenues, almost $1.6 million. September is a big tax month as far as revenue coming in, so quite a bit of funding comes in during September. That's the bulk of it right there. First quarter expenses, last year $344,000, so we're down a little bit. First quarter revenues, 1.579. So if you compare the revenue number, this time last year, we basically have about 18, 19 more thousand than we did a year ago in the AT tax revenue. Okay, so a few slides on COVID-19 funding. Okay, so we'll start with ESSER 1. The allotments are, for the most part, broken down between ESSER 1, 2, and 3, and we've talked about this on multiple occasions. ESSER 1, PRC 163, the total allotment is $3,624,289. Total year-to-date expenses, but I'm going back to pick up 2021 expenses also, because I just want to kind of show you the balance remaining. So we spent $3,058,000 of the 3.6. Remaining balance of $566,241. That we will zero out that money this school year. It will carry over for 3 more months in the next school year, but we'll zero it out this year. There's some recurring expenses in there, salaries and benefits. For the most part, Dr. Gainer referenced it before, and it was in the slide on summer school. So we used $1.4 million of that on summer school. We've also bought quite a bit of technology, PPE. We've hired additional custodians. There's been some additional teachers, teacher assistants, and quite a few EC positions.
And board members, a lot of people don't realize that while we've had a lot of discussions about the cloth face coverings and all the stuff, that has been associated with COVID, school systems were required to fund something. We didn't get, other than some donations we received from several companies. We spent a lot of money. Also, the custodians last year, this was last year, we gave every school an additional custodian position to help with COVID cleaning. Also, about this time last year, board members, if you remember, might have been a little bit earlier, when we had an opportunity to take pre-K-5, which we did pre-K-5 back, we went back 4 days a week. And at that time, because of the concern about the class size in grades 4 and 5, we gave every elementary school an extra teacher position to address grades 4 and 5. And the reason Todd has teacher assistant there was we told the elementary principals the likelihood of finding a teacher at that point might not be as good as finding, the equivalent of a teacher position is 2 full-time TAs. That might could have been an option a teacher used. We gave them several creative options. You could hire a half-time teacher and a full-time TA. So board members, you remember that's what all that bottom line is. And then we also had some EC positions we used. So most of what you're seeing right there in ESSER 1 money occurred last year because all these levels, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3, have different expiration windows. And yes, we are concerned. We are concerned as a school system that the last amount of money that we've yet received, which Todd will show you in a minute, ESSER 3, we're concerned that the window of time for spending it with the rules associated with it is going to be very difficult. We need that window expanded out. As we have a legislator sitting here, we need, Mr. McNeil, we need more time on ESSER 3 to be able to use that because it will be our biggest allotment based on what we're seeing. But we have not received ESSER 3 money yet. We've only made our plan and applied for it. So just to give you a little review of that, all of that was last year, and you can see right there, as Todd mentioned, summer school, a big chunk of that came out of summer school. So we'll have to have, if the state continues to require us to have summer school every summer, we'll have to have money set aside for that. And Kathy, I do believe we've already been given enough indication that summer school's coming again this summer, is it not?
Yes, we have an additional ESSER funding or PRC funding for Summer Bridge Academies this summer.
Yes. Okay, Todd.
Yeah, I think there's maybe two separate,
Lots of money.
yeah, comings, much smaller than what that one is, but, yeah. Okay, Sheena, next slide should be ESSER 2. ESSER 2, PRC 171, $14.1 million. We've just got started on this one. $915,000 has been spent so far, so 13.2 remaining. The biggest expense so far is the virtual academy at Randolph, and we did also purchase some technology.
And board members, there is a balance of $13 million, and as the night goes on, you'll see another plan we have for the balance of $13 million, a good portion of that. So that is on the agenda tonight.
Todd, what's the end date on 2, ESSER 2?
Okay, so the end date on 2, we have the rest of this year, all of next year, and they all expire on September 30th. So
September 30th,
So
2023.
whatever year they expire.
yeah, they all expire on September 30th of whatever year. So ESSER 2 is this year, next year, and into whatever year that would be in September 30th. So we have 2 full years basically to spend the ESSER 2, and then ESSER 3 would be 1 more year out.
Todd, did we get an extension on 1 though to get to December? Is that what I remember?
We haven't received an extension on any of them.
So is that the date we will use it on?
When the original one, though, at the end of December?
The original ESSER 1 will be September 30th of the next school year.
2022.
Yeah. Okay, and then ESSER 3 is 181. That is, by far the biggest allotment of the COVID budget, $31.6 million. We submitted our plan to DPI last week on that, so we don't have an approval back yet. So in the coming weeks, we should have an approval back. And then one more slide on COVID-19 funding. So those were the major allotments, but there actually are 9 more specific federal allotments that fall under ESSER, CARES, or GEARS. They combine all together for a little over $2 million. so far what we've been spending those on. And a lot of these are very, well, I should say all of these they're more specific. So you may have one allotment that's just for nurses or psychologists, social workers, things like that. So mental health, digital curriculum, EC support, those are some of the specific areas that these allotments are tied to. So if we once again go back to 2021, we spent $281,729 on that, so we have 1.7 million remaining in those combined allotments. One challenge that we have is, especially with the ones that are specific, is finding the employees, or in some cases, it's contract workers. One of those programs, you can't hire employees, it's just for contract workers. And so that makes it even more challenging. So anyway, that's kind of where we are with the COVID funding right now. And I will say, we were talking about it today in our leadership meeting. DPI on their finance and business website, they have a great tool that you can go in there and select any school system in the state, and you can look at their COVID money. You can drill down, and it gets very specific. They basically just pulled all of our data in, and they've created a nice tool for the public or anybody to go in there and look, and you hover your cursor over the different areas, and it'll tell you exactly. It's updated through August 31st, so it's always going to run a month or two behind, by the time they get the information posted. But it's a good tool. It's a good tool to use.
Can you share that website again?
It's the if you go to the DPI website and go under Financial and Business Services. It should be kind of on the front page somewhere, and I think there's a little link that says COVID allotments and information.
It's like a massive data pool.
Yeah, I mean, I had some people ask me about it, and that's where I can direct them.
You can pull up any school system in the state.
Okay, Sheena. Almost finished here. Charter school enrollment, we always touch on that. So last year, we ended the year with 1,289 Randolph County school students attending 16 charters and 2 virtual charters combined. So the current enrollment for this year is 1,357. So far we have 13 charters and 2 virtuals reporting. I don't know, that may be all of them that we're going to hear from. But that's a current increase of 68 students, and then I just gave you a couple right here. You are a charter, of course, that's the majority of those kids, 1,104, and then the 2 virtual academies have a combined 65. Just to clarify, it's a total increase of 68. You are a charter has an increase of 66, and the virtual academy has an increase of 7. But all that means is that some of the other charters have a few less students, and that's how we get to a net of 68 more. The average cost this year, our cost on the local dollars is $1,479 per student. That goes to the charter, and then the virtual charter cost remains at $790, which is set by legislation. Year-to-date expense, we've paid out $482,353 in the first quarter to charter schools for those kids. Cash balances as of the end of September, current expense $9.2 million, capital outlay $334, AT tax 1.6, and once again, AT tax has had their big revenue month and not much spending to this point. And then child nutrition 4.3. Keep in mind that with current expense, even though that 9.2 figure looks nice and healthy, November is supplement month, so that's when that number takes a big hit. And then finally, just some areas to watch. 21-22 state budget. At some point, we'll have one of those, I suppose. And then COVID-19 budgets and spending plans. We'll keep you apprised of that. And then we always, watch our charter school enrollment each month and see how constant that stays. Any questions about it? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Ms. Ashford.
Good evening, board members. Tonight I present to you the student assignment report for the first quarter for the 21-22 school year.
If it's okay with you, I'm just gonna start on the left-hand side and work my way across. On that first column is the capacity of each of those schools. The second column there represents the current enrollment at that school as of October the 8th. Friday, October the 8th, that's the number of students enrolled in those schools. Moving on across, the MU stands for mobile units. I did want to make note there, when we talk about the mobile units, if you scroll down to Trinity Middle School shows 4. Please know there's not 4 mobile units at Trinity Middle School. Those 4 represent the 4 that are still at Braxton-Craven, because remember, our school numbers went from Braxton-Craven to Trinity Middle. So that 4 actually is sitting on the campus of Braxton-Craven, not Trinity Middle. At this time this year, we've got 60 mobile units. Last year at this time 80 mobile units, sorry. Last year at this time we had 87. Those 7 come from Wheatmore Middle, had 6 on site last year. They are down to 1. So there's 5 of those 7. Braxton-Craven had 6, and we've moved 2 of those at this point, so that's the 4. So 5 and 2 makes the 7 difference from where we were last year at this time with our mobile units.
Do you know how many of those 80 we rent?
We own 67 of them. So when I started here 9 years ago, we had 108 in 13-14. And 67 is the number. It's not changed, the number we've owned.
Right.
So we've been gradually, the last 9 years, moving out leased ones as much as we could. And moving, if we moved the leased one out, moving the owned one in if we still needed it there. But you've seen some major numbers drop at Southeast Middle as far as the number of mobile classrooms. I was noticing the other day, it's just a total different look out front now when those trailers are gone. And so we're gradually getting out of the mobile classroom business.
We've got to be looking at Randleman. Yeah, high school.
Well, the problem at Randleman is that we can't build anything else permanent there.
Yeah.
We have to buy more land because there's an impervious soil rule there. You can't build anything else permanent on that land. That's why the mobile classrooms are like they are. We'll have to buy adjoining land if we ever do anything to take the mobile units up at Randleman. But I would agree. I think our 4 regional high schools are going to need some attention, and hopefully we'd love to see that happen down the road. And,
I mean, if there's anything we could do to be creative to use some of Randleman Middle School?
well, there's a, my thoughts are, one day could we ever make that one campus and go somewhere else with one of the schools, I don't know.
They got more capacity.
Yeah, and that's, when we first went to Randall Middle with the 5th grade, Randall Middle was only 68% full, and Randall Elementary was 120% full way back. That was the spring of 14, so we've been there once, so who knows where we go again. But that's our problem, Mr. Cutler. We cannot build anything else on that site permanent at Randall High School.
Well, the 4 original high schools are the ones that really need attention.
Yes, that would be a nice day down the road.
Those additional columns represent, the next 2 columns, the reassignment with a positive and a negative, those represent movement of students within our own school system. So the first column with the positive are the students that are attending that respectful school that are not domiciled in that school district. The negative reassignment column represent the number of students whose address are assigned to that school but are attending a different school in our school system. So if you go to the bottom of those 2 columns, we have 1,029 students that are attending schools that they're not domiciled to attend, and those 2 columns should always balance out, or I've not done my math correctly. All right, so the last 2 columns, the release and admissions. The release, again, are the number of students that we have released to another school system that are domiciled in those respective schools, and then admissions are the number of students that are attending our school that are domiciled outside of the Randolph County school system, attendance zone. So the last column is per school, their net gain or loss. And at the very bottom of that, for our school system, we are at a net loss of 49. Last year this time we were at a net loss of negative 50. We have been as high as negative 153 and as low as negative 10.
I did review some of our past data, and that -45 to -50 is where we've been for the last couple of years. And then just as a reminder, once a student is released or admitted into our system, unless there's a change in status, that pretty much stays with them while they're in school. So a lot of those students, if they're released as a kindergartner, we're carrying that number for around 13 years. So I think we're probably about at that -45 to -50, unfortunately, number for a while.
Yes. First quarter of 14-15 was the first time we presented this chart, and at that point, that far cell at the bottom was -153. We had, I guess this was the accurate way of saying it, we had more students leaving than we were getting, 153 more leaving us to, and this doesn't have anything to do with going to a charter school or to a private school or to a home school. This has them getting an official release from us by law to go to another public school system in North Carolina that they don't live in their zone. Like if they wanted to get a release to Ashburn City, or they wanted to get a release to go to Guilford. Maybe their parent teaches in Guilford and they want to go where their parent is. There's a law that speaks to that says they have to have an official release. Just like the 333 students are coming our way, we cannot even entertain them being with us unless they have an official release from the school system in the zone in which they live, that zone.
And
And that is
capacity
for 5
levels
years.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
we don't, and we don't, if you don't have room, if your school is over 95%, we don't even consider it.
Any other questions?
More questions? Thank you. Okay, this time I need a motion to approve the consent items. I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Okay, motion carries. This time we'll move on to the action items with Dr. Gainey.
Okay, board members, have several things I want to present to you tonight. First item that I'd like to present pertains to the upcoming School Board Association meeting that will be in November, North Carolina School Board Association meeting. At that event, school boards have a certain number of designated voted delegates, and it's based on the expenditures of a school system, and we qualify in the highest range. If you look at the memo I gave you, there's a document behind that I will submit tomorrow. At this time, we qualify for 4 voting delegates, and we need tonight to select who will be our 4 voting delegates, and then we also need to select an alternate delegate, because there's a time, if you remember, those of you who've been to this meeting, there's a time when we go into a delegate assembly, and there are things that are voted on by the School Board Association's Board of Directors that, I think it's the Board of Directors, is that what it's called, Mr. Cover? And that's what gets presented on from the School Board Association as our priorities for the legislature as they work on future budgets and future legislation. So at this time, we just need to designate the 4 voting delegates and who would be the alternate delegate.
Do you know which day we'll be attending?
No, and right now, Mr. Cook, there is, when you look at the schedule, it's a little unusual because it looks like it's last time we looked, a Friday and a Saturday?
No, it's a Thursday, Friday.
Now it's changed to Thursday, Friday. And that's odd in itself because it's never been that late in the week. So I don't know what that is, what the reason for that is.
I think it's because it's convention center.
Is it because when they could get it? And they didn't have it in person last year, did they?
That's right.
So they probably have been bumped.
They lost
So
it.
now, that's probably what's caused, yes.
And what have you signed up for? I know Mr. Cutler's gonna be,
I have to be
we were
there.
asked
I
to
have
be
to
on
be
the
there.
action.
Yeah, Action Center. I have to be there on Thursday, and that's when the voting will take place.
Okay, so you probably wouldn't,
I can
you
be
can't be, can you be a voting
there.
delegate? Do
Yeah,
that too?
on what they're voting on, I can.
Okay. So see as how Todd's already there. We have one, I'll do it. Anybody else like to volunteer? It's always, Tracy. It's hard to ask Sharon since she's on the calendar. You do it?
Okay, we need,
Okay, so we have four.
and we need one alternate.
How about Fred, you and Mike would like to?
Mike can be the alternate. I'll volunteer sit up.
Okay. Mike, you
He
can
needs to explain.
Yeah.
alternate. Probably.
Yeah, everybody needs to experience that once in a while.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Cook, I've got Mr. Cutler, Mr. Cook, Mr. Boyles, Ms. Farlow in the first four, and then Mr. Sink in the last one. You see that? We need a motion on that.
So we need a motion to approve, Mr. Cutler, myself, Tracy, Ms. Farlow as the four voting delegates for the Randolph County Board of Education at the 53rd Annual North Carolina School Boards Association Conference in November. And Mike Sink as an alternate voting delegate.
So moved.
I knew you was gonna do that. We have a second. You second it, Tracy?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. It's changed over the years. It used to be, I like the way it used to be better.
Mhm. Last year really messed it up.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to, I know Dr. Gaines is excited about moving on to the second item tonight, so turning it over to you.
Okay, board members, just want to make some comments and I'm going to read a resolution. But during the 21-22 school year, our school systems experienced staff shortages due to COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to this issue, the leadership of the school system has been working on a bonus plan for our staff members for over the last month and a half. And the work involved identifying the different components of the plan and involved getting approval at state level for the use of the funding that we're going to use for this plan that we recommended to you tonight. The school system's elementary and secondary schools emergency relief funds 2, ESSER 2 funds will be used to cover this plan. The cost of it, that is. The focus of this plan will be looking forward into the future in terms of the school system's staffing needs. You know, many people may not be aware, but the Randolph County School System is the largest employer in the county. Our school system has great staff members who are highly valued. They're loved and appreciated by the leadership of this school system for their hard work every day with children. As a result, our school system wants to keep these individuals with us and add other great staff members to our employee team. The plan I'm going to talk to you tonight about has 3 components. Number 1, retention of our current employees. Number 2, retention of our current substitutes. And I'm probably going to miss a group: substitute teachers, substitute bus drivers, substitute child nutrition staff members, substitute custodians, substitute clerical staff. I think we might have substitutes in daycare programs as well. You know, the other day I was in a cafeteria and I was talking to one of the ladies that was helping serve food, and I said, "How many positions do you have open on your staff?" And she said, "I'm not on the regular staff, but I've been subbing every day this year." And people don't realize we have substitutes beyond substitute teachers. We have people driving buses as substitutes. We have people serving lunches as substitutes. We have people who are clerical substitutes. We have substitute custodians. We would not make it without them. There is something in this plan for them as well. The third part of the plan is recruitment of new employees and new substitutes. And we've already mentioned those categories. And for the substitutes who may be listening, if I've missed a substitute category, I'm sorry. I tried to put as many out there as I could in my notes. So, the school system needs our current employees to remain with us and new employees to join us. The school system needs our current substitutes to remain with us and new substitutes to join us. This is especially critical as we go into the winter months and we work to recruit and hire new permanent employees in vacant positions. I will tell you, I'm very proud of this plan because it includes everybody, not one person in the school system. It does not include the superintendent of the school system.
Or us.
Or the school
Or
board.
the board members, exactly. Excuse me, Mr. Governor. It does not include us 8. It includes current employees, current substitutes, future employees, and future substitutes. And before I get into the plan, I'll just say I've been a part of one other bonus plan in my career, and that was about 10, 11 years ago. And there was a lot of pieces there that I had trouble with. I don't have any trouble with this plan. And this plan has been a team effort. I want to say thank you to Todd Lowe, because Todd Lowe's had a lot of conversation with me on this. And unfortunately, when you plan stuff like this, you know, one of the things we didn't get confirmation until in the last couple of days. We were too close to a board meeting to call a special call board meeting. But last thing you can do is put something out there in conversation that doesn't happen. And I want to say a big thank you to the 7 board members for their conversation with me, because when we got to the point we knew we could make it work, then we had more conversation. So I'm going to read the plan into the board record. It should be, Beverly, has it appeared on the agenda yet? I'm going to give you all one to have to look at. And then if I tell you, we can add it later, Beverly.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
Sheila can just put it up so people can.
It's over
Okay, so
now.
y'all got it? Do y'all want a hard copy? Want a hard copy,
Yes.
Mr. Scott? Okay. And then Mr. This is a resolution which covers our plan. I'm going to read the resolution in its entirety. And I'll answer any questions you have, board members. Resolution to provide COVID-19 premium pay to Randolph County School System employees due to pandemic-related disruptions and staff shortages. Whereas due to COVID-19, the Randolph County School System is experiencing unprecedented labor shortages across multiple classifications of employment. Whereas in the determination of Randolph County Board of Education, the board, upon recommendation of the superintendent, payment of retention bonuses to employees will assist in retaining current employees. Payment of recruitment/signing bonuses will assist in recruiting much-needed new employees. And payment of incentive bonuses to substitutes will assist in ensuring that schools are adequately staffed during the upcoming winter months. And whereas the Randolph County School System has submitted a plan for use of elementary and secondary schools emergency relief funds, ESSER, and to make a point here, this is our ESSER 2 money, is being used for this, to provide premium pay to employees and substitutes to address COVID-19 related disruptions and staff shortages to the state of North Carolina. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education declares the following COVID-19 premium pay will be provided to employees using ESSER funds and subject to any restrictions on such funds required by state and federal law. So let me go through what this says. The first category is our current employees. All employees who are employed as of October 1, 2021 will receive a one-time COVID-19 retention bonus on October 28, which is when their next paycheck services, in the amount of $5,000 for full-time equivalent employees. The bonus amount will be prorated based on the percentage of full-time equivalent employment that the employee works, except that employees who are designated as student day only will not have their bonuses reduced by the number of non-student days worked. This part of the bonus is not applicable to substitutes who are not considered permanent or temporary employees for purposes of this bonus. We're going to get to the substitutes in a minute. Scroll back up to the top part real quick just a second. Okay, so 100% employees, $5,000 bonus, next paycheck. If they're not 100%, prorated. 80% employee, get a $4,000 bonus. Now, in there about student day only employees, a lot of those, we have some 94% TAs, they work student days only. They'll be treated as 100% employees. There's what we're talking about. There's some other student day only, but most of that pertains to the 94% TA. Next section, new hires. Employees who are hired by the Board of Education between October 2 and January 10 will receive a one-time COVID-19 recruitment bonus in their first regular scheduled paycheck in the amount of $2,500 for full-time equivalent employees and a one-time COVID retention bonus if they work through the end of the 21-22 school year on June 28, 2022 of $2,500 for full-time equivalent employees. The bonus amounts will be prorated based on percent of full-time equivalent employment that the employee works, except employees who are designated as student day only will not have their bonus reduced by the number of non-student days worked. The bonuses are not applicable to substitutes who are not considered permanent or temporary employees for purpose of these bonuses. So, if I joined the school system, if I was here by October 1, I'm getting the whole $5,000, or whatever my percentage of employment allows me to have. If I joined the school system from October 2 to January 10, we get you in, we want you to come be with us, then we're going to give you in your first paycheck a $2,500 bonus, or recruitment sign-in bonus, and then if you stay the rest of the year, we will give you the back half of that. So there is, on the front end, there's more for our current employees who are already with us as far as by October 1. Now, one thing that we talked about a lot as we were looking at this, and we struggled with this, because we want to do something for substitutes. Because what I just mentioned, substitutes have been helping us all year long. And we really have a rate of pay, and this is some one-time money we have, and so it's hard to increase rates of pay with one-time money. So we came up with a bonus structure for substitutes, and here it is. All substitutes who work the equivalent of 20 full-time days between October 1, so we're going to count time they've already done, October 1 to January 31, will be paid a one-time COVID-19 incentive of $1,000 in their February paycheck on February 25. So, if I sub for half a day and another half a day, there's one. We have October, November, December, January, 4 months, and that's for our bus drivers, our substitute teachers, our substitute child nutrition staff members, substitute custodians, the whole group I named earlier. So we have current employees, new hires, and substitutes. And when you're talking about current employees and new hires, we're not talking about a different scale for whether I'm a teacher, or I'm a principal, or I'm a teacher, or I'm an assistant principal, or I'm a custodian, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a clerical, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a clerical, or I'm a principal. Everybody is getting $5,000. So this is across the board. In the first category, the second category, everybody's getting $5,000 if they stay, but they get in the door and they stay the rest of the way. And then the substitutes, doesn't matter where you're subbing. So, want to make another note, independent contractors and volunteers are not eligible for these bonuses, and employees are only eligible for one of the 3 bonuses described herein. So you can't be in multiple categories. Like for instance, right now, substitutes. We have some staff that are driving buses. Okay, they may be teachers, they may be assistant principals, and we are paying them to drive the bus, but they can't be in the substitute group and the employee group. You're either one or the other. And I think if it's our current employees, and that's something we've had to do this year because of shortages with bus drivers. But that's what that last item says about you can't have more than one bonus. So, any questions?
How about employees on leave?
Employees on leave, Mr. Cutler.
Those would be considered
yes.
current employees because they're still on leave.
So
They're still employees, so they would come in the first category.
I'll answer that. Any employee on workers' comp, disability, approved paid or unpaid leave of absence will be eligible. They are employees, and if they're on one of those conditions or one of those situations, that has been approved by the school system. So whether it be paid or unpaid, you could have somebody that starts out on FMLA and then winds up in paid leave, and then they're still on FMLA later, and they're on unpaid leave at the end of it. So anybody that is one of our employees, if they're on this type of leave, any type of leave. Also, another note, somebody may wonder about retirees. Retirees are eligible. Obviously, it will be applied towards their cap, but, retirees are just like if they've been rehired as retirees, they're eligible at whatever percentage they're hired at, so.
Dr. Gainey, I know we lost a couple of employees. Will their family get their share?
If you're an employee as of October 1, as there on the, right there, if they're employed as October 1, they will be eligible for it. And I do know the situations you're talking about, and yes,
Okay, good deal.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Without any reservation, absolutely.
I think that's a good thing.
Any questions? Mr. Cook, we will need a motion to approve this so we can move forward, and then we will start talking to principals and other leaders in the school system, because typically we do not, we don't talk about salaries when we're interviewing people as far as different roles, but this is going to be something, the sign-in recruitment bonus will be something that principals and directors and anybody who's interviewing will need to be talking about as we move forward, whether it be regardless of what positions we're trying to hire.
And that's been a tough secret to keep. I know we've been blasted a little bit on social media. Why aren't we doing anything? I understand people wondering and thinking, but knowing that you guys are working on it, and I appreciate that. Our employees have had a tough time, and I mean, a lot harder than people, I think some people even realize what they've been through and how they've had to double up and stress, unreal stress, and it's been tough on them, but certainly appreciate this, and hopefully that shows a little bit that we do appreciate you, and thank you for all you've done for our students. And at this time, we need a motion to.
Todd, is there anything a staff member can do as far as to adjust for some of the tax withholding for this month then?
They can fill out new tax forms.
Just on a temporary basis though?
Yeah, they have to fill out a new one, and then before the November payroll, fill out another.
So the big thing, they
Change it back. But they have to do it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's a quick turnaround for.
Okay.
Will it be included in their regular payroll?
It'll be on a separate pay run, but your monthly income's all taxed as one. So it doesn't matter if it's on a separate pay run or not, which it will be, but we use a monthly tax table, so whatever you make that month gets taxed altogether.
We could take that, make something special out of that, couldn't we?
Well, it's just, I mean, we'll.
Fred's a
It
good
doesn't matter, some
financial
of the-
advisor, I
well,
was just.
We're gonna have some of, it's just, I understand they'll get it back, or most of it back anyway in April or so, but they still get to have more money in their pocket if they didn't make those changes. I'm sure Todd and his staff don't wanna have, 2,000 of those changes come through, but, yeah, okay,
We'll deal with it.
all right.
Gary, I'm gonna have to recuse myself from this vote because my wife's an employee of the school system.
I guess that would mean I should too, because I have. Is that proper? Is that what we should do on this, or Elizabeth?
If your spouse is an employee that would benefit from this, otherwise, any other relatives wouldn't count.
So I'll do the same.
Still got enough.
Huh?
You still have.
You still have 5.
Yeah. Pressure's on them. Need a motion to approve the resolution to provide COVID-19 premium pay to Randolph County school system employees due to the pandemic-related disruptions and staff shortages.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you for your hard work on that, Dr. Gainey, Todd, and your staff.
Yes,
Job well done.
yes, thank you.
Okay, board members, at this time I want to provide an update on our COVID-19 numbers and where we're going. Our COVID-19 numbers have improved. You can pull that up. For those of you in the crowd, you can see, scroll up, I'm gonna walk over here so I can point out some things. This was the first week, we run our weeks Saturday to Friday. We've been doing that for 19 months. Obviously, we all know the first week did not start out, it started out kind of tough. We had 81 positives, 41 were considered impacts based on, we look back the 48-hour window, the connection to the school. Scroll up a little, if we scroll up. This next week, a big concern, that very first week was 530 students and staff members went home due to exposures to these cases. Students and staff, and they were excluded. I heard tonight quarantine. The Randolph County school system doesn't quarantine anybody. If you want to talk about quarantine, go talk to Randolph County Public Health. We do not quarantine. We exclude you from school based on the rules that have been given to us by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. The second week was a rocky start, 956, but as I mentioned last board meeting, 711 of those people were associated with cases on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Sunday was the night, was the day that we went back to the required use cloth face covering. You know, board members, I want to be real clear with everybody in this room. I don't want to wear them any more than anybody else does. And as Mr. Steele points out, you know, I'm outside the football game, I'm not wearing it. But if this is the way to keep kids in school, this is what we have to do. So here we go. If you look here, as the weeks have gone on, board members, the answer to all of this seems to be what I've been watching for 19 months, and I'm not the scientist behind this. Our numbers of positive cases are going down, and actually, this is supposed to be 73 and 59. There was 2 cases that we learned about from Friday came in today. But here's what we've been looking at, board members. Right here, the number of people that were had to be excluded from school over time has gradually gone down. It was as low as 10 for last week, 28. You know, one week it got to 52, and I remember, Mr. Cook, I shared it with you. We were excited. Next week it popped up to 107. You know, board members, this is what we've been dealing with for 19 months. And as many people have said, you know, we get these requirements from the state. We're working through them the best we can. I see things looking better. I can tell you that we had 33 cases last week, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We had 33 cases by the end of the day on Monday. This week, I think it was 16 today. By the end of today, it was 16 unless something's come in. I still think the driver in all this is the number of positive cases. That number of positive cases right there, 71, is still 10 higher than our second highest number for any week last year. The second highest number was 61 last school year. So that's what I have for you tonight. I think we're getting better in our numbers. You know, right now, somebody's asked me in the past couple weeks, I had this question. So why, last week, by the way, board members, remember I sent you an email? Now everybody wearing cloth face coverings. It doesn't send the adults home anymore. It's 1-for-1, just like the students, which is where we went on August 29th. So how do we have exposures now? Exposures could be from the extracurriculars, which include athletics, but they also include, we're cranking up now our band concerts, our chorus concerts. We've got hunter safety. We have ROTC competitions, all our extracurricular activities. We did not require in any of those that we're called face coverings, and that's not been required. In fact, when you look at the state rules, they say even if we had those in, say, in athletics, it wouldn't prevent quarantining people like we can during the school day, for whatever reason that is. Also, in PE, we're not requiring students to wear cloth face coverings. We changed that, I think, on September 2nd, maybe it was, that if they're actively participating in the physical education class, they don't have to have on their cloth face covering. And lastly, we have had some cases where we've had mask exemption case where that was a medically driven situation where it did lead to some exclusion of people. But right now, we're narrowing it down. Feel, you know, for what we're dealing with, and I know the frustration's out there, what we're having to deal with, we're better off than we were back when we started school, numbers-wise. And so we'll continue to do what we need to do to try to keep kids in school. And we'll keep, show that grid one more time a minute. Where's Sheena? Sheena, do you have it? One thing that's a number that's concerning me here, and it hasn't stopped concerning me. This column right here, go back to the top sheet. I thought this. The number of students or staff members excluded from school having symptoms or exposed outside of school. What doesn't, the outside of school, that's if we've learned about the outside of school case, if somebody self-reported. But look how big this number's going up right here. It's getting on down, but the symptom issue is still carrying a lot. You know, when someone has symptoms, we're told they have to be excluded from school for 10 days. And that number is still staying pretty strong. I mean, I would like to see it drop on down, but I'm not sure it's going to. I'm thinking we're going to have some help from the health officials on what that means moving forward. Do we always have to continue to put children out of school for these symptoms when they could be symptoms of something else too? So I know that board members, I know I'm not oblivious to what goes on around me. I'm not oblivious to the conversations around me. And we're watching it as close as we can and what we're asked to do, required to do. But there are things that are, as we move forward, hopefully it will start clearing up because some of these things are very difficult to manage. You know, the flip side in that last column there, you know, I just did a projection and the actual, because those two cases today, I did a projection just because of what we actually had the first week, and that 735 should be 761. You know, I tell you, you start having to put out 1,500 kids a week for exposures to positive cases. That's a game changer too. And so I'll answer any questions you have, board members, but that is where we are with our data right now. We'll continue to do what we're required to do, and we'll continue to do the best we can with our stakeholders as we move forward to answer questions that they have regarding this. Any questions you have for me?
Can you follow up with Ms. Dodge, what she was talking about earlier tonight with the...
Probably not without disclosing confidential information.
And about the phone call?
I mean, I can give you the emails between the two of us. I have no problem.
You don't even try.
Yeah.
You can't discuss student information in a public board
I
meeting.
promise. He was quarantined in first period math.
Okay, let's just don't get in. Maybe you could call or something, you guys could.
Yeah, give her a number, guys.
I
Can
did
she
talk
talk
to
to you at
him.
another time? Why don't you call and talk to him like tomorrow?
I did.
Okay. Yeah, all right, okay. All right. We'll talk about it. All right, any more questions?
You know, that's where it gets difficult, Mr. Cook, just to be right honest with you. What gets really difficult is that my staff and I understand the feelings, but my staff and I can't talk about individual cases. Number one, I can talk about an individual case on a discipline case or inappropriate behavior case by someone in the school system. And so I understand that. And, you know, as I told somebody recently, you know, 19 months ago, I didn't know what COVID was. I think I had it maybe in December 2019 when I was out of town. This is something that's been handed to my staff, and we've done the very best we know how. It's been handed to our community, and we've all done the best we know how. But, you know, we talk about this a lot with our staff members, our principals. You know, it'd be easy to have a conversation, But once you start talking about stuff that you can't share, as confidential, then it goes from there. So, we're working as hard as we can, I can assure you that, I can assure the community of that, and all I can say is we're doing the best we can. We have expanded our contact tracing team, so that we could, get some of this away from us some, but we're still dealing with, obviously, this data is something we watch every day.
Dr. Gainey, I have to say, the last 19 months, it's been the toughest being the board member that I've ever experienced, and especially for me. And this is me, and I sat down, and I want you guys to listen to me because I kind of wrote down what I'm feeling. And if you know me at all, when I sit down to write something, I only speak from the heart. And so it's not the perfect written thing, but it's what I'm thinking, okay? And I'm speaking just for myself. I said, since our August special call board meeting, my feelings about being a board member and my thoughts about a lot have certainly been scrambled. I decided to put it on the table tonight, so I can feel better about myself, and hopefully many of you can understand me better. I'm only speaking for myself, and these are my thoughts. I could easily drift back to last year as 80,000 seats are empty in a football stadium, but Walmart and Lowe's, places like that, can have a full house. But I'm only going to talk about now and moving forward. Since August, I have found myself playing a role I totally dislike. We were told if children wear cloth face coverings universally, only the positive will go home and kids stay in school. You know, I find the mask very uncomfortable. Like many of you, I find it hard to believe they actually work. I voted for them to try to keep kids in school. I've never been into playing anyone's game, but I decided kids in school was worth it. Past 2 months and a half, I feel like a hypocrite. I'm asking someone to do something I only do in this room. That's where I'm asking. I get it. It should not be the decision of this board. And I voiced my opinion with the governor's aide. I called him. I asked for 5 minutes, 5-minute conversation with the governor to talk about it. If you want to do it, mandate it. I can't get one. No response other than I will try. I've questioned, not our local legislator here, but I have questioned one, and basically, I don't think they've had a clue, and I appreciate ours being out tonight to see what this is doing. What this is doing to our community, what it's doing to our kids, and I appreciate you coming. But I was told by the one that I was talking to, you know, keep up the good work, you're doing a good job. You know, that don't help me. I was asked by a local political leader, have you had your school board meeting this month? That was last month, which was after, the last one. I said, yes, it was horrible. I says, we're being crucified doing a job we're not supposed to be doing. You know, I really got no help. Conversation over. I'm not criticizing any of these people, but I really don't have a leg to stand on. Now I want to move on to the local health department. You know, I understand we notify the health department every time there's a positive case, and we provide everyone in close contact a list of everyone in close contact. The quarantine orders should not be coming from our school system. We're not responsible for quarantining people, and the school system should not be the only place people learn they were close contacts. We should not be determined when a school has a cluster that's like 8 positives and they can close the school. We should be guided and supported in the right direction. I think our local health department probably has been abandoned by the state health department in some ways. And they're probably a lot like us. They're confused and a lot handed and thrown in their lap by Raleigh. We shouldn't make decisions like this and be forced into those. I said, I can no longer defend wearing a mask at school, but taking it off, playing at daycare, in the neighborhood, sporting events, etc. I said, I'm just not that, I can't do it. I cannot play that game anymore. You know, stadium seats are full. My gosh, they're having the state fair in Raleigh. But yet, You know, they must think we're idiots. I mean, here we are. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for me. I really am. And, you know, we're being bullied, and you guys are right. We have to take our country back.
Amen. Amen.
And keep fighting for what we believe.
We'll stand with you, brother.
I mean, I've never been so disappointed by the leadership and direction the United States has had. And this past Saturday, I attended the North Carolina Aviation Museum event in Asheboro. And I watched a group of older veterans showing planes and telling stories. And I watched the Army paratroopers jump out of a plane to the plane of Lee Greenwood singing God Bless the USA. And it moved me, and my hair stood up. I said, you know, that's the America I'm used to. That's the America I want to get back to. And school board meetings should be a place to showcase our kids and staff. We recognize them, let them show their work, we brag on them, not arguing with you guys. You know, the higher ups, I think that's what they want us to do. I think they want us at odds. They want to defeat us. And they're doing it all throughout the country. And I'm quite frankly, I'm tired of it. I mean, I am tired of you know, they want us guys to think we're in favor of changing history. I can guarantee in Randolph County, we're a lot more like you than you probably think. And I forgot to mention, you know, the toolkit. I mean, my thinking on the toolkit, it's a fantasy toolbox or whatever, whoever pulls out of it at any time. But we're supposed to follow it and believe it.
Tell it, man.
You know, that's enough said on that one. I would like for this board to consider actually not voting tonight. We could table this thing for 2 weeks. If that's at least 2 weeks, whatever it takes. I can't vote on the mask being used. But if we could table this and to give the leadership of the health department time to get prepared to do their job, whether they can handle quarantine, whatever they need to do. If they want to mandate masks, if the governor wants to mandate masks, you know what? It's on them. But when we come back, if you guys can agree on a date, I'm thinking 2 weeks. We can live with it for 2 more weeks. I want to come back in, and I'm changing my direction. I'm going to vote for mask optional. And I want to encourage the school system to get back on track. Our superintendent to be able to get back on track, his staff to focus on education, focus on the children.
That's right.
And stop doing other people's jobs. And I had to steal this one from Donald Trump. Let's make this school system great again.
Yes, sir.
It's your guys, you know, if you guys, someone would be willing to make that motion that we could put this meeting, we can make it November 1st, I think is on the
So
Monday.
it would be a motion to table.
Table, okay.
Until a certain day.
You could put a date certain on it.
Let's just table it, and let's talk.
Why can't you vote tonight?
I want to give, I sprung this on them, this is strictly me, and I can do it, but I want to, look, I'm giving them the option here for 2 weeks. We can come back. I told you where I stand, but I want to give them a chance to make sure that we do the right thing from the health department. And I think, you know, that's fairness to get their ducks in a row, because they're going to have to step up to the plate. There's a little more work going to be involved on somebody else's end other than this school system. And I don't want it to come back on me that you didn't give us enough time or anything like that. So I'm respectfully asked if someone would be willing, if it's okay with you guys, I would like not to vote tonight and table it. This is what we need to do, if they will.
We need a motion to table.
I'll make a motion that we table it until November 5th.
Or the 1st, is that on the Monday?
First is on Monday.
Can we do it on the Monday?
On Monday.
Or just, okay. Do we have a second? Anybody second? Who will not second it?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
No, I'm fine with him. I would like for Brian to be here to vote on this too. I think we need his vote.
Brian, honestly, I just got a text, and let me tell you guys, Brian was gonna join us later in this meeting, he wanted to be a part of it, but his son is still in surgery. And to be honest with you guys, and I would appreciate you praying for this, it's really sad. He hurt his knee, he broke a bone in the knee, but in the process, the main artery going down his leg has been damaged really, really bad, and what they're having to do, they're going in other words, the blood's not flowing all the way down his leg. And my understanding, they got to go in and take an artery out of the other leg, and I just pray it works. I mean, young man, you could lose a leg over that. That'd be so sad. I mean, that accident's not what you get playing football. It's usually something in a bad car wreck. But I really hate it for him tonight. But I honestly, I believe Brian will support that decision. I honestly do. I really would. I didn't tell him. Look, guys, I appreciate you guys' concern. You have a passion, and we just need to get things back on track.
We'll stay with you, Gary.
Okay, so at this time, we will, Ms. Waddell, we're gonna move on.
We need to vote on that.
Okay, we did vote on it, did we? I got sidetracked,
Right, you
right?
did vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did vote on it, didn't we? Yeah, it was unanimous. Unanimous. Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to curriculum and instruction with Ms. Waddell.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, I bring to you the preliminary school improvement plans for the 4 designated low-performing schools in the Randolph County School System. The Randolph County School System was notified by the Department of Public Instruction that we have 4 schools in our school district that are designated as low-performing. The schools designated are Franklinville Elementary School, Liberty Elementary School, Southeastern Randolph Middle School, and Uwari 612. The specifics to this designation can be found in General Statute 115C, 105.37. Each of these schools has an individual school improvement plan through the NC STAR program. Senate Bill 654 states that schools previously identified as low performing based on data from 2018-2019 shall continue to be identified as low performing for the 2021-22 school year. Furthermore, written parental notice is not required to be provided again, but local boards of education of low-performing schools shall include with their online plans a brief explanation that states that low-performing identification continues to be pending based on the assessment data from the 21-22 school year. After tonight, the plans will be posted on our website for public comment for 30 days. At the November 2021 school board meeting, we will bring back all of the plans for final approval and submission to the State Board of Education. Thank you for your attention.
Is that down from last year?
No, and here's one of the things, Kathy, one of the things I've been in disagreement with is these were based on results from 18-19 because we didn't test in 19-20 and we tested last year. The state and the federal government required us to test, but this is based on 18-19, and so it's a carryover. It concerns me. I'll say it concerns me. I thought we had an opportunity maybe to have started afresh, and I shared that concern during the summer, but this is based on 18-19 data, and So these 3 schools have carried this label all this time. So we will work as hard as we can to help them get out of this identification, but it is based on 1819.
The safety part's in closed session, huh?
It'll be in closed session, and then after closed session, you'll vote on both parts together.
Okay.
The safety part for these 4 schools, yes.
Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, Mr. Brinkley.
Good evening, board members. Tonight I bring to you a recommendation to approve facility improvements at Southwestern Randolph High School. Brian Hodgson, principal at Southwestern Randolph High School, has requested approval to make improvements to the athletic fields. By installing a 60-foot by 80-foot batting center to be located near the baseball field and the softball field. The Athletics Booster Club at Southwestern Randolph High School will be responsible for funding the project through donations. Enclosed, you will find more information about the project, including the batting center building plans, and I will be glad to answer any questions you may have about the proposed building project.
This will be a top-notch facility, isn't it?
Nice.
Pretty nice. And it'll all be with private donations.
Yes. It'll just be going through the Booster Club, but the donors wish to be remain anonymous.
Yep.
That is correct.
Have a projected start date?
They do not want to move forward with getting the plans approved or any building permits until the board approves the project. But from what I understand, once the project is approved by the board, they will be ready to start.
Tracy will be over there, I think, between the softball field and the football entrance, or the old entrance. Is that right?
I thought it was going to be kind of between baseball and softball.
Softball,
They
yeah,
had
right
to move
there.
it because of utilities.
If you know where the existing batting cage is, it'll actually be where the existing batting
Gotcha.
cage is, down the left.
Down to the baseball line of the baseball field. There's a fence will probably have to come out, I guess, because that fence tees off that area of the stadium. The baseball stadium is kind of contained. Actually, the fence runs all the way to the field.
The building would probably be about 6 to 8 feet off the actual left field baseball fence. And then, like I said, the existing batting cage.
I think are there some trees in there too?
There are about 3 trees in there that have to be removed.
It'll really tighten up that corner.
Yeah, it will.
And once it's completed, the school system maintains it and everything like that, right?
Yes, it would roll into our property just like anything else.
Okay.
Just like the one that they were building, they built it a couple years ago, Wheatmore. You know, we had a very similar one come through on Wheatmore a couple of years ago. And I don't know that I'd say similar, it was a large batting cage facility that had some indoor environment. And so then it would come on our property as far as our responsibility is.
Any other questions?
Go ahead.
I'm just,
Make it
y'all
down.
ready to vote?
Okay, so we need a motion, to approve the facility improvements at Southwestern Randolph High School.
So moved.
We have a second. Tracy. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So you're gonna stay up there, right?
Yes, sir.
Dale, can I start with some comments here on this before we get into this? Board members, I asked Dale to bring this tonight because we're now, 2.5 months into Trinity Middle School. We closed the doors at Braxton-Craven School on June 30th. And at some point, we've got to make some decisions about that property. And we may not come to a decision tonight, but I felt like we didn't need to wait too terribly much longer before we started having a conversation. Because there's different parts of this property that I think has interest to the school system. And I may be wrong. The school board may decide there aren't. But I wanted Dale's done a lot of work, and he and Larry have been looking at this, and we do have Steve Myers, Larry, I think, is keeping the grounds right now. Our special projects staff member who managed the project over at Trinity Middle and still managing that as they're doing punch list and warranty work. So, but at some point, we've got to make a decision what to do with Braxton-Craven, because a building standing open, if somebody else wants to purchase it, we just to maintain that, because Mr. Burgess, as you just said, is still our property, and so it's still ours to maintain. And if we wind up with a water pipe bust, it's still ours to deal with. So, Dale, I'll turn it over to you. Dale's done a lot of work, like I said, with Larry on this, and just going to put some stuff out for you tonight.
Okay, so to discuss the options for the Braxton-Craven School property, first and foremost, the sale of school property must be offered to the Randolph County Commissioners according to Board Policy 9400, which references sale, disposal, and lease of board-owned real property, and the sale should be consistent with General Statute 147, Article 6E and 6G. So if you look at option 1, the board could opt to sell the property as one parcel, which would include the gym, school building, the large parking area, the small parking area in front of the gym, and the softball field across the street. If we sold the property as one large parcel, then we would want to look at an agreement with the buyer to retain usage of the gym and the small parking area for any school activities, as well as to retain usage of the large parking area for any athletic stadium events. If you look at option 2, the board could divide the property into sections. A survey would be needed for each section of the property, and Randolph County School System would retain ownership, including maintenance and utilities of the designated parcels the board elects to keep. So if you look at the next slide, you will see the Braxton-Craven School parcel and surrounding parcels. So this gives you an idea of how the property would look sold as one parcel, or how you could consider breaking the property into multiple parcels, and where we would maintain ownership of said parcels and sell the remaining parcels, again, if the property is divided.
Sheena, can you make that? Yeah, we'll go across the road in a minute to get that softball field. The softball field across the road, but we're not going to be able to show that.
I think if you minimize it a little bit, it might show up. There you go.
So, board members, what we've heard is what I hear from staff, what I hear from different board members, different community members is, and obviously, we have to have access to that big parking lot right there. That's our parking lot for athletics at Trinity High School. So we have to have that. And down at the bottom, Sheena, can you go to where the gym is? That gym is essential to Trinity High School athletics, would you not say, Mr. Singh?
Yes, sir.
And so a piece that is also critical to that is there's a little parking lot right there in front that people forget about. I forget about much of it's there. So when we get into this, the things I've heard the most about is the big parking lot and the gym. Now, how we wind up with that, the board may say we don't want any of it, we'll sell it all. Don't forget the softball field across the road is our property too. But those are the two biggest pieces, that parking lot and that gym. So we would like to hear y'all's thoughts, and again, we may be back here next month and 3 months in a row, or maybe 5 months in a row, whatever it takes.
And the board may have other options.
Yeah, you may have some things. This was just our thoughts initially.
And there is this statutory process that has to be followed, so I don't think that a vote on it tonight would be appropriate. Just
I want to tell you, and Mike, jump in if I miss. Mike's probably, I don't know, we're pretty close on being passionate about this probably. We talk about history, the gym's history. And that's very important. And this is my fear, if you sell that whole property, whether you sell it to Randolph County Commissioners, if they wanted it for something, you know, like maybe some satellite sites or something, services, which I think would be probably a good place. But my concern is, you know, down the road, you don't know who your next commissioners might be. You could get someone to come from, move that has no Randolph County ties. Well, Braxton-Craven Gym may not mean much to them. And, you know, that's history. I would say we need to keep that gym. I wouldn't trust anybody with that gym. The parking lot, I mean, you know, you just don't know who you can trust when you get down to property and 10 years down the road. So if we got a chance to save something, we need to save it now. And the softball field, Mike, don't they use that for Little League and different things?
Yeah,
You
our
could,
Little League uses it,
yeah.
you know, and I think that could be brought into them as far as
Right.
maintaining it, looking after it or whatever.
It's a nice piece of land, no need letting it, and there's a blacktop area with a fence right below the gym. That's another, I'll be honest with you, the only thing I would consider selling at that school would be that building there. And they could use, we'd let them use the parking lot, not them let us use the parking lot. I would rather keep the parking lot and, so no one's gonna mess with that parking lot down the road. I mean, I just don't, and I'll tell you another important part, if you keep the parking lot, you may wanna make a little curve in because God knows, this is for the Sunset Garden Club, and that, if you've ever been to Braxton, there's a gazebo out there.
Across the street.
Yeah, it's actually, Duke University was on that site, and, at Trinity College before Duke, and that's a part of that, so I'd hate to see, you know, they would kill me for one thing, but that's history. Those people keep it up, you know, they plant flowers, and, I'd like to protect that for them. I mean, I think that's sacred, that gym and that gazebo, a lot of that's sacred ground, but would you agree, Mike, that's, you Trinity?
Yeah,
and,
that's, the parking lot, the gym, that whole facility area we've used for 30+ years, even when Braxton was there. So it's, you know, we all utilize it. All of our teams utilize it. A lot of the community utilizes it for, that's where they're in Little League basketball for years, and that's stopped. Well, it stopped mainly because of COVID, but with them coming back, the gym, the outline area in the back, and on any sporting event, the parking lot up at the top, especially where you see the buses up there, it's, I mean, we'd be put out, I don't know where we'd park. I mean, it'd be a lot of people that, I really don't know. We lose that, and like he's talking about, no matter who buys it, you know, they come in later, they may take that away from, it's, you know, it's part of, that was the original Trinity, so it's always been a part of our facility. That's the way we've looked at it, and, you know, losing that whole facility right there, and the gym, like I said, we've utilized it for forever as far as I know, and everybody uses it for different purposes, and it's a great overflow now for, I'm trying to fight our wrestling coach to keep him out of it, but he's fell in love with it for wrestling, so.
You could have it like probably a wrestling match, and then it still has the clock and all that, would be kind
Yeah,
of cool.
I mean, everything's still, I mean,
Playing
the
in town.
building itself, and I go back,
The thing is, I know we started talking about this 3 or 4 years ago when we started talking about building the Trinity Middle School. And, you know, it's brought up, it was donated from Duke University to the county. And the county was letting the school system use it. And we asked back then about clarifying who actually owns it, the county or the school system. We never got no answer.
We do.
We do.
That's the way they make it sound. Do the commissioners, do you think, have an interest? I mean, I've heard rumors, and I think actually, you know, Darryl Fry and actually mentioned here, that would be a good place for some services. Are they interested?
You know,
I've heard they get it.
I don't want to speak for them. I think there's, I've heard of interest from the county. I have heard that. And also, Mr. Sink, just so you know, one of the reasons we are working back with that basketball league now, but we're trying to keep that solely to Trinity High. And I met with them again, because they were gonna start up last year, and they decided, you know, we may, I'm paraphrasing, but the two leaders that said we could cause y'all bigger issues in the school if something happens in our league with as we were dealing with COVID. And so, but I met with them the other week, and we're looking at some other sites, and we're trying to keep that gym right now to y'all only at Trinity High. So they may wind up back in there before it's over to the little league, but basketball leagues. But yeah, Mr. Cook, I've heard I just wanted you to know in case you didn't see them playing there, because Dale, we've already been working on their facility use stuff, and we're trying to make some other sites work as well. But the only group I've heard different rumors, the only group I've heard is the county having some interest in that building. And did talk to a person in real estate who mentioned talking about if you sell something and you sell it with this agreement that, you know, I did have that conversation last week, that wasn't as, this person didn't think that was as good a route to go down as it was to, you know, maybe keep things and let somebody have an agreement to use say they bought the building and got an agreement to use the parking lot. Obviously, we work with them because the building would be no value to them if they didn't have the parking lot to use during the day. And like Dale and I kept looking, and about every third time I look at that map, I forget about the parking lot in front of the gym. I forget all about that, and that's some pretty critical parking right there too for staff. So I think anybody who would buy the building from us, if that's what happens, would probably want some kind of access to that little place just during the work day.
Well, I know several years, this was back in the 80s, when Sidney Underwood, him and a group of guys came in, and Trinity, that gym was in disarray. All the windows were broken. This is when Braxton-Craven went by there. And somehow they got some historical money and completely redid it. Now, I don't know what the historical value is there, but I know that Mr. Underwood and several people got together and, you know, fixed it up, fixed the floor, put heat in it, and they didn't have anything. And in fact, we were practicing in it, and it was a little ash, you know, but I know that he did a lot with it, him and a group of other people, and I would just like to see it stay with. It's been a part of Trinity. I can date my age, but I played against Trinity in that gym when I played basketball. So,
I wonder what year that gym was built. Let's
don't go back that far.
I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves because there's a lot of things. First of all, we gotta have a prospective buyer to begin with, but then secondly, you can't sell just that building without some concessions being made by the county, because there has to be a certain amount of parking spaces that goes with any kind of structure like that. So it's not, we can't just say, okay, we'll carve out this parking lot and this parking lot and you can have the building, you know, then, so I think we're just getting way ahead of ourselves. I think we can talk all night and nothing's gonna happen. So
They need
I think
more looked into.
Yeah.
I think we made it plain what we're thinking though.
Yeah.
Well, I think at this point we'll talk to our attorneys. Obviously, Ms. Troutman has heard your comments. We'll look at what our options are, and I think this is probably going to be multiple discussions. I don't think this is I wouldn't feel comfortable if y'all had made a motion tonight. We might have an emergency meeting tomorrow. So we'll continue to look at what our options are and what next steps are, and we'll keep this as a running conversation until we get to where we feel comfortable as a system and a board, okay? But I think we've gleaned enough to know we've confirmed enough on some pieces here. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Board Member.
Okay, Todd.
I move that the Randolph County Board of Education enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute to preserve the attorney-client privilege to discuss confidential personnel matters protected by North Carolina General Statute and to discuss plans to protect school and public safety specifically provided in the state statute.
Okay, we have the motion, we'll go into closed session, have a second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're in closed session. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, at this time I need a motion to approve the personnel report.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? I need a motion to approve the preliminary plans for the improvement school improvement plans for the 4 schools designated as low-performing schools.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
You got it. Have a second?
Second.
All right, we're adjourned.